And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Flock. Now, if you take a look at this cover here, this is a cover that when I saw this game, I really wanted to try this one out. This just looks really good. It's clean, it looks different than other things. It has almost a Disney-esque cartoon thing to it, and it's a build a big flock. Are you going to be on the top of the pecking order type thing? So very intrigued by that. I was a little surprised when I opened the box and found that there literally were just 8 of these cards, 2 of which are used for scoring and turn order, and a pile of pieces. That's it. There was no deck of cards or anything. So that was intriguing. Well, let's see how interesting the game is. Okay, so you can see here that there's some resources. These are nests, these are birds, these are worms. There's also a pile of birds. Each player is going to start with 3 birds. There's a bird over here to show initiative, and in competitions and dominance, this will matter. There's also birds on a scoring track here to keep track of your points. Now this sun here keeps track of the rounds, and these rounds are caused when someone triggers a competition. Now the way this works is on your turn, you can either put a bird out on one of these things, or you can activate one of them. So maybe I put a bird here, then next turn I put another bird here, then next turn I put a bird there, then I activate this one. Now whenever you activate something, anyone who has birds on that is going to be able to, that also will activate it, because they're all coming off. When they come off, they come back to your pool. Most of these cards are pretty simple. Like for example, feeding here. If you have 2 birds, you remove them, get 3 worms. If you have 1 bird, you remove it, and you get 1 worm. Up here, if you have birds and nests, you get eggs. Now when you the birds you pull off here, the nests you pay to the bank. Here, you can pay birds to get nests. Here, birds plus worms plus eggs will give you more birds that come to your pool that you'll be able to use. So these 4 are all pretty simple. These are a little bit more complicated, and in fact, the dominance one is different depending on the number of players. But essentially, whoever has the most when dominance is activated goes up to number 1 on the initiative track over here. And then each player, starting with the second most and so on, can the second player has the option of moving up to the second spot, or taking all the birds here and putting them somewhere else and kicking someone else's bird off. Here, and everyone else then will take all their birds and put them somewhere else and kick someone else's bird off wherever they go to. So that is dominance. Competition cannot be activated until the number of birds, there's a number of birds on it that it shows in round 1, there has to be at least 4 birds there, 5 birds and 6 birds. When this activates, everybody has to pay 1 worm and 1 nest for each bird they have over 2. So if I have 5 birds, I would have to pay 3 worms and 3 nests. If I don't, I lose those birds out of my pool. Then, everyone who has birds here is going to be able to move them to 1 or 2 of the other cards. Finally, each person is going to get 1 bird, 1 point for every bird that they have, and we're going to score each card. When we look at a card, the numbers at the top, whoever has the most birds in that card gets 5 points, then 2. So over here, 4 and 3, 4 and 3, down here, 4 and 3, and the dominance card, 5 and 2. After we're done scoring, then the birds come off, we start another round, and we just continue on. You're just going to go through 3 rounds, and after 3 rounds, whoever has the highest score is the winner. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy the artwork, right? The artwork is great. Problematically, the artwork is on these cards and that's it. I wish, such great, cool artwork, and they used it for the cover and for a few cards, and that was it. That almost seems like a waste of this really cool artwork. The pieces, yeah, there's worm pieces and egg pieces and nest pieces. Hey, I've never seen those in games before, and birds. Although it was a big problem in the scoring track. The birds just fall all over the place. They have squares that are smaller than the birds. They're supposed to go on top of each other. You're keeping tracks on the 10s and the 0s columns. Scoreboard is a mess. Other than that, though, everything is fine. This game is going to be, I think, off-putting to some people in the sense of you kind of are trying to figure out what to do. It's a bit of a cerebral exercise. You're putting birds down, right? Oh, definitely putting birds there because I want nests. I'm putting birds there. I want worms. I want to change these to eggs. I want to change this to get more birds and put more birds out. I got to be careful though, because as I'm putting these birds out, I need to make sure that I have enough food and nests to pay for them. And the round could end when there's enough birds there. So I'm putting these birds out, but I also want to make sure that I'm the one scoring it, because if I put one bird there, I'm going to put two birds, but before I put the second bird, someone else activates that card, and then I only get the thing for the one bird. And one of the things that seemed weird to me first was the dominance, but the dominance is important for one reason, mostly because you can move a bunch of birds one place, but this initiative track is important because if there's a tie between birds, and that's going to happen a lot in the scoring phase, you can win the ties based on initiative. Again, big deal. This is an area control game where you're putting out different birds in spots, but because anytime someone activates it, the birds are removed. And by the way, birds are not removed after scoring. I mentioned that in the overview. That's not correct. They stay there. I misspoke. But they are removed when the thing is activated. And because they're removed when it's activated, you're trying to control these different regions, but it's activated, they're moved off. And so trying to get 5 points, you got to have the birds on that competition or dominance to quick fly them all there. And because of all that, this game has a couple feelings for me in the negative column. Now, I like the theme. I like how the game looks. I like that it's pretty easy to explain, and other than dominance and competition, makes really total sense. Dominance and competition are a little wonky for people to understand. But I do not like the fact that there is pretty much no randomness in the game. There is none. So games are going to play very samey. What are you doing? I'm getting another bird, so I'll get worms. Well, I guess I'll get nests because that's different than you. It's really not. So playing multiple games of this, I was like, what did we do differently this game? I tried to control that card instead of this one. And that brings me to my second point. This is an area control game where you're trying to control different areas, and having a lot of birds in an area is difficult to do when they're being pulled off all the time and you're getting things from them. And so these points that you get, which is the main focus of the game, is just, it's just difficult to do. It's difficult to have any kind of handle on it, especially with more players. The more players, the more chaotic a game is, because really, you don't know when anyone in particular is going to activate a card. It could easily be activated before your turn comes up again. And then finally, I just felt like those points and everything, the sum of the game itself just wasn't that interesting. I'm like, ooh, I got some nests, I get this, I get some birds. Now I got to pay for the birds, food, oh, I lost some birds. And sometimes, and you may not score many points some rounds, you're like, why did I just play that half of the game? Or that third of the game? It doesn't seem like there was any kind of reward, or honestly, any kind of real joy or fun in it. Flock has some really cool ideas, but I really don't see this one becoming a staple in collections because I'm not sure who it's appealing to. If it's appealing to people who want pure strategy, I'm not seeing a lot of different divergent paths that it can take. If it is appealing to people who want to play a cool, fun worker placement area control game, I don't believe there's enough interesting and moments of yeah in the game at all. And so, as beautiful as this artwork is, and as cool as the components are, and just how neat the idea is, I think ultimately this is one that just didn't interest me. Dice Tower Judgment, cool ideas, but just doesn't really work out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!